Welcome back to Lost in Roshar, the ultimate journey through the Stormlight Archive. I'm Christian Kremling.
And I'm Jimmy Stormbless. Today we are diving into chapter 66 and 67 for the Wave Kings. The sanderlanche is underway. We're losing our footing. We're rolling down the hill straight towards the Kremling compost station. But if you have not read the Wave Kings, in fact, if you haven't read the rest of the Stormlight Archive, I need you to do me a favor and get on out of here. But for everyone else that's a part of the in-group, welcome back to Lost in Roshar. We're happy to have you here, and I'm just happy to be talking to you, Christian. I'm happy to sit back, have some chit chat, and catch up, man, because it's been a long week.
Yeah, I love a bit of chit chat to get the show going. And look, we've made it. The words, say the words, Kaladin. And I was a little nervous going into this chapter. I was like, I said to you before, like my whole personality hinges on me feeling like euphoric, amazed with these two chapters, and I did. It was incredible. It was amazing how Sanderson he's like held back on so much. Dalinar not interacting with Kaladin, Kaladin's backstory with Tef, like all these things were held back. Him being a proper, like a proper Knights Radiant, all these things are left till these two chapters, and the way it comes together was glorious. So I had a great time reading these today, and I'm really excited to go into them. And I'm also like picked up on a few things where I was like, maybe a little like a few other things were going on here that I didn't get the first time. And I did some Googling, as you do, to validate my thoughts, and no one's talking about it. So either I'm very wrong or I've solved the entire series.
Well, I'm going on with the latter because you're a genius. Have you ever read The Way of Kings?
I've dabbled.
Okay.
I've dabbled. Yes, I was asked this week, unironically, have you read The Way of Kings? Which was just a brilliant moment in my week. Yeah, look, it's been a fun one.
I mean, one of the things, I guess this is go right to the Sanderson update, is that we had a chapter reading for the Secret Project that is in the future of the Cosmere. And, spoiler alert if you haven't wanted to watch that video, but there are some dragons in this one. And that is pretty exciting. It seems like it's happening on Hoyd's planet.
Yes, Yolan. Very close to YOLO, which takes me back to about 2012 when YOLO was
Four Locos and YOLO was very popular.
Yeah, but Yolan, good old Yolan, where originally I believe Bridge 4 was set in Dragonsteel Prime. Bridge 4 was on that planet. So he
I did not know that.
Yeah, so he transported the Bridge 4 storyline to Roshar. Very interesting.
What?
Yeah, it's very weird how that could have gone. Could have been a totally different thing.
Has he ever talked about why he switched it? Or maybe even a more interesting question would be, why did he initially want it there?
Yeah, I think he has. But all I remember is that fact that they used to be in the world. It's in very early Cosmere days, I think. So yeah. Look, I told everyone I was a bit lukewarm with future Cosmere because, breath equivalent units and shard guns, just not ready. You got to ease me into this stuff. So when I heard future Cosmere, I was a little nervous. But then he just reads a chapter with dragons and cool dragon lore and dragon cities. And I'm just like, okay, like future, that's fine.
Less motorbikes, more dragons.
Yeah. Like, yes, it's in the future, but there's dragons, so it's fine. In my mind, I'm like, yes, fantasy.
Yeah, you like the fantasy element. Yeah.
And it will be I think from memory, there's like two main POVs, and the other POV is very much the, shard guns and spaceships and all that. But that's a curious mix to me. How will that mix with our, dragon pals? That could be an interesting convergence of sci-fi, fantasy, Sando. So that's got me excited about it.
I'm excited. And, when we heard about the Secret Project, very much curious, but not going to get overly excited because I'm a person who likes to see what what the work is before I get too excited. It's like trailers. I don't watch a lot of I will watch trailers, but I don't watch a lot of trailers, and I don't put a lot of stock into trailers because I've seen some trailers that were just absolute bangers, and then the product comes out and the product sucks. So I've always been kind of like cautious with my optimism. Not that I'm always, a naysayer, but I try to be reserved and make appropriate judgments after I digest a work or read it or watch it or whatever. Right. So this is interesting because the combination of fantasy and sci-fi nowadays feels like this, like almost taboo. In some ways, because the way genre fiction has split. But when you look back at a lot of the greats in the genre, like even going back into 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, a lot of them were crossing lines. I mean, not least of which is the Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe that combines these things beautifully, or one that a lot of people are really, really high on that was back in the late 90s, early 2000s, was called The Many-Colored Land by Julian May, which is supposedly a sci-fi story that a group of essentially refugees from a space civilization travel back in time and land on Earth in prehistoric times.
I mean, that's amazing. That's
right. It sounds cool, right? Yeah. So, this is one of those things where I'm excited to see Sanderson tackle these things. And I wish more often nowadays we would see it because I think that those lines were blurred a lot more before. People weren't so concerned about fitting inside of a bucket and a marketing budget and these type of things. So I think Sanderson doing this one is going to be interesting because he's a very creative person, but maybe it'll also inspire even more upcoming writers to think about blurring those lines. I think that could be a really cool trend to see. Not that it doesn't exist today. It does. But I feel like it used to be a little bit more popular. George R. R. Martin always said that sci-fi, horror, and fantasy were different rooms in the same house.
Yeah. I like that.
I love that.
Yeah. George has great little quotes like that he can throw in.
Yeah, he's fabulous. When it comes to editing, and he really cares about writing. He's always, he might not be working on the thing we always want him to work on, but he's always writing. And apparently he's a phenomenal editor. That's one thing Brandon Sanderson has said on his podcast. He said people don't realize it, but like George is one of the best, like when it comes to editing. So pretty cool.
And train collecting. Let's not forget.
And train collecting and Tex-Mex food in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Yeah. It reminds me of a lot of music that I've enjoyed over the years where genres are blurred or incorporated and mixed in interesting ways. And it's either a disaster or you're like, oh, never thought these two genres could mix like that or switch like that. And I don't feel too disoriented. It's working for me. So I'd like to see that in the Cosmere. I want planets that are like behind to encounter these space age people and to see like what happens. I think that's really cool because right now it feels like, a couple of societies are a little bit ahead or a little bit behind, but I want, like what you said, get these space refugees to like the Stone Age Cosmere planet. I think that'd be very cool.
No, the shock of it by itself would be entertaining.
Yeah, exactly. That's why when he read these chapters, I'm like, oh, okay. So these people over here in Dragon Society have this, and these other people have like full on like sci-fi Star Wars stuff. So it's a weird mix, and I like it. So yeah, I'm more excited about it now. So I think that's the only new Sanderson thing. It's all about that new project, the words of Radiance Leatherbound, and it's another, Sando fans are eating good.
Yeah, definitely. And one other thing I'm excited about is I think we've decided, and I know we talked about this last week, but I think we're set on it. Warbreaker, 3 episodes, 20 chapters an episode. Here on the podcast between the Way of Kings and Words of Radiance, which is great because it might give us a little bit of buffer time before we get some of the new artwork. For those who do watch over on YouTube, we have artwork for the podcast on video.
Yes.
I think we're going to be getting some more artwork, which will be exciting.
I'm going to contact our awesome artist, Connor Chamberlain, we're going to start drafting up some things for Words of Radiance. So yeah, I'm just going to spitball a little bit now, just like while we're here, because I thought we've got Kaladin, Shallan, and Dalinar right now for our awesome backgrounds on YouTube, and I thought we can keep those still in the Words of Radiance episode, but we'll have 3 additional ones. So I was like, oh, do I double up? Because Kaladin becomes like Kaladin becomes radiant Kaladin, working for Dalinar in his blue colon uniform and his glowing eyes. I'm like, I kind of want that as a backdrop.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, we got new characters, and like, because I mean, Shallan writing notes in Shadesmar like we have now kind of still works. That kind of still works for Words of Radiance. Dalinar gazing off into the storm kind of still works. So I kind of want a Kaladin upgrade. And then there's like 2 mysteries. I'm thinking maybe Yasna, dude. But she's like in 5% of the next book. So I think that's just saying more about me than like the actual integrity of the show. I'm like, I just want Yasna.
Yeah, you're never going to get me to vote against Yasna ever.
Yeah.
Ever. So exciting stuff. Exciting to do Warbreaker. You know, that'll be fun, and probably leading into Words of Radiance and then right into book 5 at the end of the year. I mean, this is going to be some cool stuff.
Oh, it's going to be great. I think we're going to have a major cliffhanger, because I think right as we get into some juicy Words of Radiance stuff, Wind and Truth is going to bulldoze that right out of the room. And it shall gather dust for about 6 months and then we'll return.
But it'll be awesome, because when we return to it, I think it's going to be one of those things where we have a whole bunch of new information. And we're going to be saying, we should reread The Way of Kings again.
Again.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an argument that maybe we should have started the podcast after book 5. But I think that building up to it has been a lot of fun. So it'll be fun.
We need that divide. We need that divide of like, who was here before book 5? Who's a true Lost in Roshar stan?
Well, the numbers are exploding. I will say this. So we appreciate everyone that checks these out and listens and enjoys our brand of silliness. Very non-serious, but also, you know, passionate about this thing. And we've been seeing absurd growth, to be honest. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you. It's very cool on Spotify that old episodes continue to grow, whereas YouTube's like, oh, that came out 3 months ago. No, thank you. Like, people don't want to see that. But Spotify is cool. Like, people will scroll down and be like, okay, episode 1, let's do this.
Yeah,
it's nice. I prefer that, to be honest. YouTube feels like a bit of a rat race, and Spotify feels like kind of like the old days.
There's a catalog.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Sanderson update. Oh, I guess we go to I forgot about these, but we have death rattles.
We do have death rattles, and we'll see what we think of these ones.
Okay.
We're covering chapter 66 and 67, as we talked about, which chapter 66 is titled just Codes. 67 is Words. Seems pretty straightforward, but let's read the death rattle for chapter 66 first. That chanting, that singing, those rasping voices.
Cactach, 1173, 16 seconds pre-death. A middle-aged Potter. Harry Potter. No, sorry.
I was going to make that joke. Damn it.
Absolutely. Damn, beat you to it. Reported seeing strange dreams during high storms during the last few years. Is this literally Harry Potter on Roshar getting like Voldemort dreams in the storms? What's going on?
Reported seeing strange dreams during high storms during the last 2 years.
That's very peculiar, isn't it?
That is actually. This might be an Easter egg.
Like, why is he... Okay, either it's an Easter egg, or like, what's going on, dude? Like, because as far as we know, it's just Daddy Dalinar getting visions. Since when is middle-aged Potter still in the limelight?
I did think that was the interesting point to this, but I was going to lean on the side of this being a Harry Potter reference. I'm not going to lie to you.
You reckon? Really?
Yeah. Authors do this all the time. Like Robert Jordan's in A Song of Ice and Fire. I'm sure Brandon's done this prior, in his books with little nods. I wouldn't be surprised.
I guess the middle age is the only weird thing, because Harry isn't someone you imagine as middle aged.
Well, he grew up, and instead of becoming a detective in Chicago, he went to Roshar.
All right, sweet. All right, that's canon. And
all right, that is canon from now on.
He saw some. The way you said it was like he's at like a country rock show, chanting, singing, rasping voices,
little twang.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. I mean, this is straight up like listener Parshendi stuff. I don't think there's much. I mean, or it's not, and it's some crazy book 10, country band that comes in to take over Roshar.
I think it is the Parshendi. That would be my guess for this one. And I do think it's Harry Potter that's saying it.
And that's the quality insight you come here for, guys. There we go.
Wait till you read this one for 67. So the death rattle for chapter 67 entitled Words is this. Yeah, let me no longer hurt. Let me no longer weep. Digon Arthas, the black fisher, holds my sorrow and consumes it, T.
Okay. Oh, this date. Tanatasach, as they say, as the young kids are saying. 1173, 28 seconds pre-death, a dark-eyed female street juggler, also from Queens, New York. Note, similarity to sample 117289. Ooh. Maybe I need to look at that sample.
Yeah, look that up.
Okay.
All right. Wait. It's 1172. I would assume it has to be from Tanatasach.
All right. There's a
because it's saying 1172 to 1189, but the chapter prior was 1173 Kaktak. So that's not it.
So somebody has somebody asked this question on Reddit and they said it's not listed. That one is not listed anywhere. This one
maybe
they're noting similarity to. Maybe. Interesting. Well, this death rattle came up in one of my latest videos about your old mate Nan Balat, who is like, feeling a release or a his pain goes away when he is torturing these Kremlings or whatever he's doing. And I thought, and then Sanderson said something magical is happening with Nan Balat. And I'm like, oh, is there an unmade who because it says, let me no longer hurt, let me no longer weep, which is like what everyone in Shallan's family wants to do. Is it this unmade Diagonarthus, the Black Fisher?
The Black Fisher.
Is it like feeding off of the sorrow of the Devars, potentially?
I think yes. I really like this connection. I think it ties in beautifully. It also is giving a little bit of a shine on the Shallan situation as we are really heavy in these Kaladin and Dalinar chapters, which is kind of a way of Sanderson underhanding, sneakily balancing out the narrative. So personally, I subscribe to this Blackfisher being what's happening. Yeah,
cool.
Not a lot.
I think it's interesting because Odium does a similar thing to Moash, where he's like, "Give me your pain, don't worry about that. I got you." So it's a very Odium unmade thing to do. Take away the pain and replace it with something else. So
it's never free, right? And it makes you a little less human because even negative emotions are part of the human experience. So I think it makes sense. You don't want to numb the pain, and even though it sucks, it's like whenever Butters gets broken up with on South Park, he's like, I know I'm sad right now, but I used to be so happy. It's whenever he gets the raisins. Do you remember that episode?
I didn't expect a Butters reference here, but okay, yeah.
Listen, I learned a lot of lessons from South Park.
Oh yeah.
All right, should we jump into this chapter summary for chapter 66?
Yes, let's do it.
Codes. Plot summary with Kaladin coming up first. Kaladin finishes working on Scar, saying that he will be able to walk normally once he heals up. Kaladin then notices that Sadeas is retreating even though the battle seems to be going well, and realizes that the High Prince is betraying Dalinar. Kaladin sees that Sadeas is unharmed and hears him say that Dalinar's honor would someday get him killed. Then we switch over to Big Daddy Dalinar, where Adolin yells at Dalinar that he knew that Sadeas' betrayal was inevitable as they fight off waves of Parshendi, and Dalinar agrees in resignation. Adolin refused to blame his father, though, saying that his honor would not make him behave differently, which surprises Dalinar. Dalinar tries to motivate his soldiers with a speech, saying that they will all die with glory and honor intact. Dalinar silently regrets that he will leave Renarin alone to inherit, surrounded by enemies, and says goodbye. Now, that's the whole summary. But on a first read, I remember being like, "Oh, this is where the old wise guy dies, and then his son will take over, and then Renarin will have to be mentored, and you know what I mean." Like I would. So what I'm saying is, the first time I read this, I thought Adolin would survive, Dalinar would die.
Right. Okay. I don't remember what I thought, to be honest, because I read The Way of Kings last in 2017, so it's a long time ago. I don't
That is a
remember what
long
I
time
thought.
ago now, 7
But
years.
yeah, God, that's a bit worrying. But what I did forget was Dalinar's epic speech. Or am I
Yeah.
forget? Was it this? Maybe it wasn't this chapter. I think it's the next chapter. Actually, maybe
Well,
I'm
this
going.
is where he's telling his men, like, you
Oh
guys are
no!
all,
Oh yeah, no! It was this chapter. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, that speech! I was like, there's nothing like a good fantasy like charge speech by like an old grizzly battle hardened dude, and like, oh, I kind of want you to read it. If anyone's going to read it, Jimmy Stormblessed, it
All right,
is
I'll read
you.
it. I'll read it.
Where it says, "Death is the end of all." Oh no, it is time for us to fight. That's where it starts, I think.
I mean, there is a lot here. But it
Even
says,
if yeah, go for it.
so then they released one another, and Dalinar turned to the soldiers around them. "It is time for us to fight," he said, voice growing louder. "And we do so not because we seek the glory of men, but because the other options are worse. We follow the codes not because they bring gain, but because we loathe the people we would otherwise become. We stand here on this battlefield alone because of who we are." The
Oh,
members of the
let's go.
Cobalt Guard, standing in a ring, began to turn, one at a time, looking toward him. Beyond them, reserve soldiers, light-eyed and dark, gathered close, eyes terrified and faces resolute. "Death is the end of all men," Dalinar bellowed. "What is the measure of him once he is gone? The wealth he accumulated and left for his heirs to squabble over? The glory he obtained only to be passed on to those who slew him? The lofty positions he held through happenstance? No. We fight here because we understand. The end is the same. It is the path that separates men. When we taste that end, we will do so with our heads held high, eyes to the sun.
Oh,
I am not ashamed of what I have become. Other men may debase themselves to destroy me. Let them have their glory, for I will retain mine."
dude, the shard blade formed, dropping into his hand. I was like, "Are you kidding me? This is straight up hype." It's
And
just
then the inner thought of,
hype.
"And so I die."
Yeah, and so I die. Off we go, boys.
Are you
I'm just
kidding me?
like,
Listen, guys,
I'm ready to go.
This
I'm
is some
ready.
shonen hype train. Love it.
Owen Smith. That's all I'm saying. It's an Owen Smith speech in Stormlight. Glorious. Glorious.
Terrific.
Glorious.
Absolutely epic.
Loved
Loved it.
I just was like, held out his hand. He's like, "Let me finish my last 10 seconds of my speech real quick." And shard blade perfectly timed to the charge. I'm like, that I just got chills reading that. I was just like, and then his inner thoughts. And then he says goodbye to Renarin in his head. And he's just
Very
like,
sad.
"Farewell, son. I'm just about to be a badass." And then he's thinking about Navani too in the next chapter. It's just great. And I love that moment between sorry guys, a lot of this episode is just me going, "Oh my god, this is the best," with no real insight. But Adolin, where he's like, "Dad, I get it. Sadie's is a bastard, but you're an upstanding guy and you did what you had to do. So let's die together." I'm just like, this is brilliant. Very gratifying to read.
Yes, it is.
It's just a straight up hype train into words. Like, I don't know. I don't know what else I can pick apart for codes before we jump into words. Did you have anything?
I do not, but did any of the things that you picked up on happen in this chapter, or were they all from the Kaladin?
It's all the next chapter for sure.
All right, well, buckle up because we're jumping into words. Chapter 67.
This is why we started this podcast, man. This chapter right here.
Yeah, and this is a lot of recap, so bear with me, folks, okay? We start off this chapter in Kaladin's POV, and as Sadeas's forces withdraw, Bridge 4 lags behind. Having wounded and already being low in number, they are unable to move ahead of the army and help with the crossing of the staging plateau. Instead of crossing with the army, Kaladin tells Matal that they will rest and use the bridge to follow and catch up later. Kaladin gives the pretense that he doesn't want to slow down the rest of the army. The army continues westward without Bridge 4. Kaladin explains to the men that now they can simply escape without fighting. Everything is perfect except the wounded back at camp. Kaladin insists that he stay with the wounded and escape later. Kaladin feels unsettled, and not just because of the men he would have to leave behind. He sees Syl next to him as a regular-sized woman. She stands looking back at the battle with an expression of horror. Kaladin also looks back at the battle. He sees the thousands of dark-eyed soldiers hopelessly surrounded. Syl says that she now remembers what kind of spren she is. She is an honor spren. The spirit of oaths, promises, and nobility. Kaladin thinks that trying to save Colin's army would be suicide and that he and his men owe Dalinar nothing. He is determined not to be fooled again like he was the time that he saved Amaram. Finally, he remembers his father's words. The light eyes don't care about life, so I must. So we must. With the ideals of the Radiance forming in his mind, he tells the members of Bridge 4 that they must go back. They agree and lift the bridge, heading back to the tower, which is now when we get into Dalinar's POV. Dalinar's shard plate grows weak. It is losing Stormlight from many small cracks, lending Dalinar less strength. Dalinar continues to fight with Adolin at the front line of his army, when he sees a lone bridge crew moving towards the chasm. Unsure of their purpose, he shows Adolin, who thinks it must be some kind of trap. Still unsure, they grab onto the small hope and prepare their men to push towards the bridge crew. Then we go back to Kaladin. The Parshendi have seen the approach of Bridge 4 and prepare to loose their arrows. Dalinar has seen too and is trying to make his way there in order to escape. Kaladin barely dodges arrows, then Syl points to a new contingent of archers aiming at the unprotected bridgemen. Kaladin yells the command for the side carry and expends a huge amount of Stormlight, attracting all the arrows to his shield. The Parshendi say, Nashua Kadal, and flee at the display of power. Kaladin is completely drained from the excessive use of Stormlight. The men set down the bridge and prepare to find another group of Parshendi who heavily outnumber the bridgemen. Kaladin can only lay on the ground in despair, having failed to protect once again, just like the day that Tien died, which is where we get the flashback from Kaladin, the one we've been waiting for. Kaladin's squad is all dead, and he is commanded to go back to the reserves for reassignment. He tries to find Tien's squad and gets caught up in the chaos of battle. After a brief exchange with an enemy soldier, he is conscripted into a new squad. Kaladin sees 3 messenger boys placed in front of the battle as a distraction. He rushes over to help defend Tien, but he is too late. Kaladin now back in the present. Syl prods Kaladin to say the words. He forces himself to his feet and grabs his spear. He runs into the battle and notices that the bearded Parshendi have infused gems woven into their beards. He breathes in Stormlight and regains his strength and heals his wounds. A voice in his head urges again, the words. Although he never learned them, he knows them, and whispers, I will protect those who cannot protect themselves. To the final POV of the chapter of Teft, where Kaladin explodes with energy and light. The bridgemen watch and wonder as Kaladin furiously fights. That rhymes, by the way.
That is one chapter, guys. One
banger.
Chapter. Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me?
An absolute slammer of a chapter.
God. Like, when I pitched this podcast to Jimmy, like, all I was thinking about was reading this chapter again. It's literally like the entire reason I wanted to do this was this moment, because it was such a powerful moment when I read it, and it's what made me a massive Stormlight fan. It just, like, I'd never experienced such a like an onslaught of payoff all at once. My first sanderlanche, and my God, did it hit hard. And I just want to read that death rattle that tied into this just while you said that. It says, above the final void I hang, friends behind, friends before. The feast I must drink clings to their faces, and the words I must speak spark in my mind. The old oaths will be spoken anew. This is the death rattle that has this exact moment of
wow.
Kaladin. Oh, it's just like, it's just amazing. This chapter was, my heart rate. I wish I had checked my heart rate. Actually, it was going up. It's just, all right. Where do we begin? Where do we begin, dude? At the beginning, yes.
I mean, the beginning usually does work well for these things.
Right. Okay. So, all right. The boys are like, all right. You know what? That sucks for Dalinar, but, you know, bloody light eyes. Let's get out of here. And that I forgot about this moment where like Kaladin kind of talks to Matal. He's like, yeah, we'll catch up. He's like, boys, we're free. Like I forgot about this moment where they have the option to just run and start a new life and all of this. The biggest question, this is what, okay, in the structure of this chapter, right? All of the, this is my, okay, I'm gonna just pitch my lore thing before we just get into the massive character payoffs and all of this stuff. The lore thing, world thing that I'm questioning when I read this is every Kaladin flashback is like, okay, new chapter, 6 years ago, whatever, right? But the way we get into this flashback of the Tien thing, yes, it is there to make this moment hit harder for the plot and Kaladin's character. That is clear. But the way we transitioned into it is unlike any other flashback. Syl, so Syl shows up in full woman form. I'm an honest Bren. Liren's voice comes into his head. He's hearing the oaths of the Radiance. And then he hears, and then he like we jump into that flashback. I'm actually trying to find the exact moment where we jump. It's not in right after there, but it's when Bridge 4 are running off. He like snaps, thinking they're gonna die, just like everyone else. And then we jump into the flashback. And when we jump out of the flashback, Kaladin blinks and he's like, "Oh, I'm not there anymore. I'm not with Tien." And then Syl's like, "Hey, do you know the words?" And just before she's like, "Hey, Cal, I bond things together." And I got a weird sense that like Syl sent him to this memory in that moment to push him to say his oath, like to remind him or something. No, it wasn't just Sanderson being like, "Hey, let's quickly check in." That's the weird, funny feeling I had reading that.
I love that, and there's a huge distinction that this flashback is very different from the other ones. And with Syl having this moment of clarity and remembrance, and then appearing in a different way, I think it's totally feasible to think that maybe she was realizing she could do something like this. That maybe he needed it.
Yeah. Although I don't think we see that again. So that's where my brain went, maybe not, but like it just felt like, why is Syl having this awakening at this moment?
Yeah.
Obviously everything's happening, but in relation to Syl, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure why that she's appeared like that. Like she's seeing death and she's horrified, but I don't know. It just felt like it felt interesting, and especially that he heard Liren's voice in his head.
Yeah. One of the things that is important to point out here is that this is like a highly individual moment for Kaladin and his anime protagonist power up.
Yeah.
And but what Sanderson does is he reinforces the backdrop of this moment with what we're seeing from Kaladin's POV, which is the fact that it is a result of all of these interactions he's had with other people. So even though it's like an individual achievement, it is come at the price of interactions with others. So like Kaladin is not who Kaladin is today without the pain and the glory of it all, right? So even in this highly individual moment, we're reminded of connection and family and love and brotherhood. And I think that that's one of the reasons why Kaladin works really well. And I think it's one of the reasons why this moment stands out. Instead of him just going berserk and swearing the idea and moving on, we're reminded of what has come before, the journey before the destination, if you will.
Yes. I was like, when's he going to say it? Yeah, like there's so much payoff as well with the Bridge 4 stuff. Like they're running, like how they're going to make it. It's like side carry, and they know it. And you're like, man, we had chapter. We're like, dude, we had so many chapters with the bridge runs and the training and the side carry, and we're like, yeah, come on, let's get to the good part. But now I'm like, all of that just for him to say side carry, and they like gets them an inch more ground. It's like, it feels amazing to have that payoff. And the description of like those hundreds of arrows coming to him and shattering the shield was just so amazing. I loved it.
And also the Parshendi wearing the things in their beards. I mean,
Yeah.
that was a nice little detail as well that I had actually forgotten about completely that they had even beards.
Yeah. And the thing they say in their language is, I'm almost certain it's Knights Radiant. So
Is that what that means?
Yeah, I'm almost certain.
See, I went a little different way with it.
Oh, okay.
I felt like Kadal was too close to Kaladin. I was like, wait,
That's kind of true. That's kind of that does make me think. But I feel like this term has come up before, and I looked it up, and it meant Knights Radiant. I'm almost
way to burst my bubble, bro.
Yeah, actually, have you read The Wave Kings?
I've not.
Yeah. Neshua Kadal. Yeah, you're right. It kind of has Kaladin vibes. But look, before I get corrected, if I get actually after actuallying you, I'll never live it down.
You will not.
So I'm going to look it up. Yeah, it's Knights Radiant. It's Knights Radiant.
I had a feeling, but maybe there was a little something there, but I guess not.
Well, maybe there still is something there. It still does connect to Kaladin, which is interesting. But look, okay, where do we go there? I'm just scrolling through this chapter. I've highlighted almost everything. This is the problem.
A lot to highlight.
Yeah, there's just okay. What do I want to talk about? I'm very excited and I've got no direction. All right, I'm gonna read what Liren says because I highlighted a bunch of it and I thought maybe there's something here to this. So it says, and his father's voice seemed to whisper a reply. Somebody has to start, son. Somebody has to step forward and do what is right, because it is right. If nobody starts, then others cannot follow. The Light Eyes don't care about life, so I must. So we must. So you must. Then it says, life before death. I failed so often. I've been knocked to the ground and trod upon, strength before weakness. This would be death I'd lead my friends to, journey before destination. Death and what is right. We have to go back, Kaladin said softly. Storm it. We have to go back. And the boys grab the bridge and off we go.
There goes my hero.
Straight up. I don't know, man. Like, there is a bit of that, like, if somebody showed me this and I hadn't been on this journey, I'm like, could be a little corny, potentially. Corny, possibly. I could see it. I could see someone being like, "Come on, Christian." It's like, really.
It's all about how you frame it in your head.
It's how you frame it, and I don't know this. And then his realization of we have to go back never gets old. Never gets old for me.
Yeah, it's a massive moment, and it's an achievement. I mean, for the bridge crew in general, like when you think about where we started, almost 1,000 pages ago, this was not a crew that you could have ever imagined doing anything like this.
Yeah.
There's a sense of accomplishment for sure.
Yeah. And we jumped to Dalinar, who's like, oh, Navani, should have floated a bit earlier. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Damn my brother, And then he's just like, he's looking at Sadeas and he sees Sadeas like, turn back and be like, Dalinar, you little wuss. And he's like, let that man be cursed for blood of my fathers. What is that? And then he sees this little speck of Bridge 4 running towards them like an absolute mad lads. And they're like, clear a path. Let's go, Adolin. Let's run through. It was a hope, a tiny precious hope. If his army was going to fall, it would do so while trying to seize that hope. Raising his shard blade high, feeling a surge of strength and determination, Dalinar charged forward at the head of his men. And then Kaladin's like, hey, man, I'm still wearing the sandals of that kind guy from chapter whatever. Like little details. There's lots of little details, and he takes responsibility. He's like, I chose to charge the shard bearer. I chose to follow Tien. I chose to save Amaram and to escape the slave pit. And now I choose to rescue these men, though I know I probably will fail. I don't even know what I'm really saying. I'm just reading out my favorite bits.
No, it's all just epic, And one of the things about this chapter here is like, it is a little hard to like segment it up and be like, okay, let's talk about this and that, because it's a build, like it's building.
Yeah. It was just an experience. Like I was actively had two parts of my brain fighting each other. One's like, dude, find some good, nuggets for the pod. but my other part of my brain was like, just enjoy this.
Mhm.
Enjoy it. Just enjoy it. So yeah, we have the all is lost moment where, you know, Kaladin's like, they're all going to die. Everyone's going to die. They always die. And then Syl, wink, wink, makes the flashback happen. Let's just make that canon. And look, how about we talk a little bit about Tien? This scene, did it hit you on the reread? Tien's death.
Yeah, I mean, it's a small child being murdered. I mean, of course it hit me. I mean, it's so sad, and Tien is very interesting. Like we've theorized a little bit about Tien, but at the end of the day, he's also just Kaladin's little brother.
Yeah. Yeah, the little smile back.
Yeah.
The little smile at, oh, hey, Kaladin, dead. And it was really, like, the part that got me. No, I knew it was coming. I'm not tearing up yet. But the last line of when it said he held the body into the evening, long past the end of the battle, clinging to it as it slowly grew cold. I was like, that got me. That
pretty
got
grim.
Me. That when Sanderson goes there, he goes there. He can do it. And in that moment, he blinks back, and I wrote, yeah, did Syl bind him to this moment? And that's where he breaks the long jump record for Roshar. He's like, you know what? I've always wanted to break the record. There's something about, I don't know what it is, but something about a big run up and a jump. I don't know. As a kid, all I wanted to do was like jump as far as I could over gaps.
You were a jumper, huh?
I was a jumper, dude. It's like in Australia, you like jump into the water. Whether you're at a pool or the beach, you want to run and you want to just jump. And I don't know, there's something about like impressing your friends. Look how far I jumped. I don't know. There's just something glorious about the way Kaladin does this, and the way the Stormlight is described as this wave going off. And what did you think about the way he knew like how the words work? He says his oath. How does that work? Because I don't think it's like a set sentence, is it?
I think it's more of like an acknowledgement, like for whatever situation is and what that means for that person and how they can word it. Because like you'd also have to consider language, right? Like if they spoke different languages or had different words for different things, right? So I think it's just like an internal like acceptance. You know, I mean, for instance, like in Christianity, right? Like whenever you become a Christian is you like acknowledging that, you know, Jesus is your savior or whatever. And it's not, I mean, they'll guide you through a prayer if you need it, but like it's supposedly like this very like personal, intimate thing where like you've acknowledged that you're starting a new life or whatever. And I think that it's kind of akin to that.
Yeah, I would agree with. I think that's it, because like, yeah, I will protect those who cannot protect themselves. Like, what if he said, I'll protect those who can't protect themselves? And Syl's like, yeah, try again.
Yeah, if he got
like,
idiot.
No shortcuts here. But like, what's more curious to me is like, why just Syl is the most biggest question mark for me in this chapter. Why was she full lady form? And secondly, she's so like adamant that he needs to say the words, enough to be in his head and be like, the words, say them. Why is she so sure that this is his moment? And like, maybe it's just as simple as it's a very high intensity moment. It's all led to this, but I don't know, dude.
Yeah, I think it's like it happens now or it never happens kind of thing.
Okay,
because he's probably gonna die. I mean, he's gonna die.
Okay, yeah, maybe it's just that, like, just to save him. Like, Kaladin,
like life before death kind of thing. Like it's literally him choosing life.
Yeah, it's like, Kaladin, we need to slaughter the Parshendi ASAP. So
could you go Super Saiyan for me, please?
Yeah. Oh, but it still hits so hard. And like, I loved the part I didn't mention was with the shield. They all see that happen and they just straight up get out of dodge. They just drop all their
they jet. They're like, we're good.
Yeah,
we're fine. We'll also choose life over death.
Which just shows, like, dude, they're all running at Dalinar and Adolin in Shardblade, but they see Kaladin do that. They're like, nope, we're out. We're done. No, thank you.
There's levels to this, as Meek Mill would say.
Yeah. And the crack shakes the air, and Dalinar's like, what's that? And yeah, Kaladin spun into them a living storm of steel, wood, and determination. Interesting. Like Moash sees this moment, he goes, "Something just changed. Something important."
Hmm.
I don't know. An interesting line and an interesting person to put it on. Moash. Something just changed. Well, yeah, the world literally changes with this moment. And my question is here, I'm going to pose a hypothetical to you, dude. We know,
Okay.
like, at first I was like, oh, yes, Kaladin, chosen one. But now we know there's, like, everyone's bloody cousin is a Radiant at this point. Was Kaladin the first Radiant of this new world? Or is, like,
Who?
this someone else who has become a Radiant elsewhere and we just don't know?
It's not Yasna, right?
Well, actually, yeah, I guess it is Yasna.
Yeah, I was thinking it was Yasna.
Well, actually, that's a really stupid question of me because even bloody Shallan had bonded a Spren in her childhood.
Yeah.
So I guess the
Dummy.
question is, yeah, have you read The Way of Kings? Have you read Words of Radiance? Here come the comments. I guess my question is, who was the first of this new gen? Like, who was the first brave Spren to be like, I'm going to bond someone, guys? Like, I know we got slaughtered, but I'm just going to bond someone. Let's see what happens. Maybe
But
it
I'm
was.
bored.
I guess, you know what? That's even more fuel to the Shallan's mum's a herald thing, because that's like, okay, you're all burnt. We're all scared of humans because they betrayed us and they created all the Deadeyes. Where should we start? Look, the heralds were pretty sick. And one of them had a kid. So why don't we approach her? Let's just see what she's doing.
It seems like it would be a very obvious candidate for this.
Yeah. Of course, I've somehow managed to squeeze in the Shallan's mum's a herald theory into this chapter, like the Kaladin chapter. But yeah, guys, we love this chapter. I apologize because I've just literally been frothing over this chapter while Jimmy smiles on like an older brother who's like, yeah, it's cool that he's into this.
No, you know what? I think when someone gets fired up about something and speaks about it with intensity and passion, that I find it to be a little bit contagious, and I love that because there's not a lot of room for that as an adult anymore.
No.
It feels like once you hit a certain age, you're not supposed to get excited about things like this anymore, or show such emotion for something that's fiction. And I'm a big supporter to say that that's BS and that you should be able to get fired up about these things and be passionate and say it with your chest. So I knew these chapters meant a lot to you, and I knew that you loved them. So I was more excited to just hear you recap them.
And I think that meant a lot to a lot of people, right? I read. I was in a very lonely place when I first read The Way of Kings, and it was just like me and Kaladin every day. Like, what are we doing, man? Let's carry some bridges. Like,
I am also sad.
Yeah, I am a sad boy. I will do a bridge run with you. And then just to get here, I don't know, there's something about it. You feel like even though you're just, sitting and reading a book, you feel like you've achieved something. You've been on a journey with a character. You've grown close to them. And hey, your cool friend Dalinar is also there too. So it's kind of cool.
And it's a big moment of like two characters coming together that you like, and having each other's back, that are from two different classes that have been at odds. You can see a potential opening up here for what ends up happening, obviously, later in the series. So it's awesome.
Yeah. And I, if I could, I would read the rest in one sitting at this point. There'd be no stopping me. And I think I did.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah, I'm sure you did, man. These sanderlanches hit hard. It's like, from this point, like, it's just pure gas till the end. But I think that is chapters. Yeah. What do we got, dude? Eshonai
and Justice, and then that is the end of part 4, and we go into part 5. Part 5 is The Silence Above.
Dude, I remember getting this is a silly thing to get chills about, but when I was first reading it, it's weird. I've got some initial memories. And I remember seeing like Shallan, Dalinar, Kaladin, Zeth. I was like, okay, sick, everyone's back. And then it said Wit. And I was like, this guy's important. And I was like, because I didn't know about Hoyd. I had no idea who Hoyd was. I'm like, Wit? Oh, cool. Like, what's that about? And I'm most actually from here on out, I'm most excited to read that because, dude, a freaking Herald comes back. Like, Talon comes back in that chapter. He's like, the desolation is coming, and Wit's like, hey, bro, haven't seen you in ages. Like, that's gonna be.
You're like, what is happening?
I had no idea. I had zero clue what the heck was going on when I first read that. I'm like, what? What does that have to do with Kaladin?
Man, it's gonna be epic.
Yeah,
Very, very excited.
I hope that was okay, guys. Like, honestly,
it was wonderful.
Just a bit of a frothing at the mouth for the end of the Way of Kings, and it feels weird, man. We're reaching the end of this thing. We've been doing this pod for a while, and
yeah,
we will hold these initial episodes in a different category. One day we'll look back and be like, oh yes, young and bright eyed, looking forward to things. And now,
yeah, and hopefully, people stick with it because we've been trying to figure the balance out, and we're flying by the seat of our pants. We're really doing this for fun. So I feel like we got a good system going now. Seems like people are enjoying it, and I hope people that listen to the earlier episodes can make it through this, because I feel like we're finding some good nuggets, pointing out some cool things, and we're having a blast.
Did you want to sneak in a Spanreed?
I don't have one actually picked out.
Oh, okay.
I may have forgot that piece of the episode, to be honest.
Why don't I can throw one in, unless you got something else.
I have one here that I was reading a little bit earlier. It's actually a little bit more recent, but I think it's a short, good one. We've been on this topic for a while now. So it's from Danny, and he says, guys, I just realized I don't think Kaladin is going to become honor.
Oh,
them are fighting words, Danny.
Don't be blaspheming in the Church of Lost in Roshar, Danny.
That's right. The hive mind will get you, bud.
Yeah.
We'll hang out for the high storm. All right. So Danny goes on. He says he's going to become the Stormfather.
Oh,
hear me out.
I'm sold.
Canon.
Yeah.
Lock in. Here we go.
Yeah.
People have theorized that the high storm might stop Big Trouble for Radiance dependent on Stormlight, and also that Dalinar is likely to die. So picture this. Dalinar is killed and the Stormfather is destroyed. Tragic and terrible, but the Stormfather is the largest sliver of honor, making him a child of honor. Ooh. Who else fits that title? It's our favorite bridge boy, Kaladin. Plus, this would mean that he can still be connected to Syl. Furthermore, he could potentially be bonded to someone and make them a bondsmith, maybe help them reforge a new oath pact. Of course, there's one big hole in all this. There's not a precedent for a human becoming a Spren. Someone go ask the Kremlings if this is possible. It's a crazy idea, but no more crazy than many of Jimmy's. So I'm sticking with it. Love you guys.
Straight up.
Little jab at me at the end there. That's okay. That's fine, Danny.
Danny's spitting facts in the corner over there. Look, I'm just going to say, like he said, no precedent for a human becoming a Spren.
I kind of love that.
I kind of saw some Spren coming into the physical realm. I saw that. I spied some, some cross contamination. So perhaps.
Well, here's the problem though. Humans weren't on Roshar; they came to Roshar. So when did Spren happen? Like we've talked about this. Like, what's the origin of Spren?
I think they were pre-humans.
Okay, so then most likely humans aren't becoming Spren, right?
But Tanavast, who held a shard, died, and he's kind of lives on in the Stormfather. So is he a Spren? He's kind of a Spren, a little bit.
A hybrid, if you will.
Yeah, yes, a hybrid. A Spruman, if you will.
Or maybe Stormfather is like the exception, or like the next evolution of a Spren, or what happens when a human crosses into whatever a Spren is, right?
Are you just trying to sell Kaladin? Are you trying to make that happen? Are you trying to, make this happen?
Syl's dead, guys. She's not making it past book 5. She's going to get slaughtered.
That's why he's selling the plushies now, because once she's...
Oh, that's devious. I like it.
Cuddling your your Syl plushie as you read her death in Wind and Truth. I hope not.
I hope so. Get her out of here. Get her out of here.
You know what? I actually want more Syl point of views. I want to explore more Spren point of views, actually, in Stormlight. because I was very excited to see her as an interlude character, and I think it's an interesting place to write from. I'm petitioning for more spread point of views. That's my hot take.
I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm down. I would like to see how they think about smaller things.
Can you imagine a pattern? Can you imagine a pattern point of view? How just the absolute
chaos
of that
ADHD. It's just 16 pages of
I want a Taravangian flashback the day he wrote the diagram. I want a whole book.
Ooh, okay.
That's now
you're talking my language. I have another one that I kind of want to read, but this one does include some spoilers from the Wind and Truth prologue. So should we do it and just say hey? Okay.
Yeah.
Folks, if you don't want to know about the Wind and Truth prologue, we're going to timestamp it. But if you don't want to know anything about the Wind and Truth prologue, get out of here because we're going to read this. And this is from our friend Brooklyn. Said, hi, Christian and Jimmy. I saw Christian's new video about Shallan's family, and I have some notes that support the mom is a herald theory. You might have already have these notes, but I thought I'd share them. First, the Copper Mine page for Herald shows that the current status of each herald, alive or dead. For Chanarok, it says she is alive, but her location is unknown. The footnote is for that is a words of Brandon, which says that Chanarok, if I'm saying that wrong, I'm sorry, has definitely been seen on screen by at least one character at least one time in the first two books. That doesn't necessarily mean that she's alive. Instead, I assume that means that we saw her in the Shallan flashbacks where she was killed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, here's the warning for the references, some information from the Wind and Truth prologue. Second, there is a super cool website that is a map and timeline of Roshar, and she gave us the link to that.
It's a very good map.
It says that Shallan killed her mother in the year 1167, month 9, and that Gavilar was assassinated in 1167, month 10. So we know these dates are close together. Then I looked up both events on the Copper Mine and couldn't find a more specific date for either event. So they could be very well the same day, which would explain Stormfather's comments to Gavilar in the prologue. Yeah. Hopefully you and the others find this interesting. It's a great theory. I'm sure the Kremlin hive mind already knows more about this than I do. I'm just trying to keep up. Thanks for the podcast, Brooklyn. Brooklyn, thank you. Also, I love the name Brooklyn. I absolutely love the name Brooklyn. I don't know why. I'm waiting
for another Sopranos.
Hey, yo, in this house, we read the Copper Mine. Hoyd, he was a saint, not a dragon.
I love that. In this house, we read the Copper Mine.
You freaking understand me?
Copper Mine versus. I always feel bad when the Stormlight Archive wiki comes up. I'm like, guys, just the Copper Mine's gotcha.
Yeah, come on.
Love the effort, but.
Yeah, let's not embarrass ourselves. Okay. This is good stuff. I mean, I am definitely on board. I think of all the theories that we have that aren't like already confirmed, that Shallan's mom being a herald is the one I'm probably most sold on.
This is the one that really sold it to the fandom because, like, in that Wind and Truth prologue, the Stormfather, who we still don't agree upon if it is the Stormfather or not, but he's like, "Oh, a herald just died. Oh no." So that's when Shallan's killing her mom, obviously.
Yeah,
clearly. And then she gets sent to Braze, and then it's Shallan's mom who breaks from torture. That's why it says the world was ending, and it was all Shallan's fault. Bam!
It's so obvious.
Bam! Honestly, Sanderson, give us a challenge.
Yeah, honestly, step it up, bro.
Yeah, because I already know the ending of the series, so what else is there to do?
Yeah, we might as well go read Elantris.
I mean,
I'm just gonna go read Attack on Titan again. I'm out of here.
Oh, I'm done. Yeah, sarcasm. Please acknowledge the sarcasm, guys. We're ready to go. We're ready to keep. Yes. Look, hey, it's a tight ep. It's a 1 hour ep, but I feel good about it. We got there, man.
Tweet like a tiger.
Oh God! Okay, we're gonna rein him in with the impressions. You've hit your quota for the week, Jimmy. But as always, guys, thank you for accompanying us on this episode of Lost in Roshar. Remember, the most important chapter a man can read is the next one. We'll see you next time as we finish up part 4 with chapter 68 and 69.
Hey, and if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, be sure to leave us a review. A review on whichever platform you're listening on. Hey, and if you got feedback, keep it to yourself. But if you have questions or theories, read us at lostandroshar@gmail.com. Yeah, we'll see you next time on the flip side of Lost and Roshar. Hey, remember, keep that safe hand covered.